Thanks for joining us on TVC News. We begin with political stories. The ruling All Progressives Congress can now conduct its planned national convention come March 26th. This comes as the High Court in the Federal Capital Territory vacated an order stopping the national convention of the party billed for March 26th. And while delivering judgment on the matter, Justice Bello Kawu argued that the political party cannot be sued by its member. The judge relied on a recent Supreme Court judgment to conclude his ruling. The ruling followed the twists in the leadership of the ruling party as it plans for the convention. Recently, there were tussles over the leadership of the party when Governor Sani Bello of Niger State took over as the acting national chairman of the APC, in the absence of the caretaker Extraordinary Convention Planning Committee of the party, Governor Mimala Buni of Yobe State. But that has now been settled, as Governor Buni said all actions taken by his Niger State counterpart remained valid. He reiterated that he duly transmitted power to Governor Bello, who acted on his authority while he was away. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, says the federal government will give effect to the court judgment ordering it to expunge Section 84, subsection 12 of the amended Electoral Act. The AGF's position was contained in a statement signed by his special advisor on media and public relations, Omar Jibril Gwandu. It further stated that parts of the law will be treated accordingly and will be recognized by the government printers in printing the electoral acts. Still in courts, the Federal High Court sitting in Mwaya, Abia State, had held that the section was unconstitutional, invalid, illegal, null and void, and of no effect whatsoever, and cannot stand because it is in violation of the clear provisions of the Constitution. The section says, quote, no political appointee at any level shall be voting delegate or be voted for at the convention or congress of any political party for the purpose of the nomination of the candidates for any election, end quote. TVC's Prince Uba reports. We'll bring you that report in our subsequent bulletin. Governor of Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa, says he is committed to handing over a vibrant state to his successor and wants his team to stay focused in the 14 months left in his administration. Governor Okowa spoke at a two-day retreat for top government functionaries in Asaba. Ikena Mechi reports. Talking about the ongoing NASU strike, members of the Youth Parliament in Ondo State have urged the leadership of the Academic Staff Union of Universities to review the industrial action in the interest of the country's education system. The youth also challenged the federal government to meet the demands of the striking lecturers in the interest of the students. They made this appeal at the sitting in Akure, the state capital. Ayodeji Moradeyo reports.
The strike embarked upon by members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has paralyzed activities in universities across Nigeria. The lecturers, among other demands, want better funding of the education sector. This issue and many others came up for discussion at a sitting of the Ondo State Youth Parliament in Akure, the state capital. The youth want both parties in the industrial dispute to shift ground in the interest of the students. The Speaker of the Parliament, Smith Ikumakpayi, said the strike has crippled academic activities in the universities.
ASU and the federal government, that they should come together, they should sit down and have a roundtable discussion on how to find a lasting solution to the demands of ASU. They should look into the demands, and ASU should also please compromise too. They might not get all what they want for the interest of the average student at home that's at the receiving end of their action.
Starting to look like a prevalent thing in Nigeria surrounding our educational system, where the government have to force lecturers, teachers to go on strike, affecting the education of this youth. It's really quite unfortunate, and we can only still continue to plead and look up to the government to find a way around.
The young parliamentarians also urge youth to take charge of the political space. They agree that more youths are venturing into politics, which they say should be given more push.
The monetization of election is the demonization of the youth. It forces the youth to the corner and ensures that they look for every means possible, especially those interested in the act of governance or leadership.
A workable policy that will be able to elevate, the standard of living of young people in this community. And I think that demography, young people, is a very critical segment of our society that we cannot afford.
Parliamentarians also agreed that aggressive participation in voter registration is of paramount importance for the young ones to take charge politically. Ayodeji Moradi, TVC News, Akure.
The appointment of Professor Adebayo Bamire as the new vice-chancellor of the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, has been greeted with protest by some Ife indigents who want an indigene be appointed into the office for the first time in 61 years. The protesters vow to continue the protest until their demands are met. Professor Adebayo Bamire, the current vice-chancellor academics, is an indigene of Oyo in Odo Otin local government area of Osun State. Our correspondent Rafi Hamid reports.
Obafemi Awolowo University, OAU, Ile-Ife, was established in 1961. It has had 11 vice-chancellors, and the tenure of the incumbent, Professor Iyitoke Ogunbodede, ends on the 7th of June this year. In line with tradition, 16 persons applied to take up the job, and after necessary steps were taken, the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council of the University, Owele Oscar Udoji, announced Professor Adebayo Bamire as the new Vice-Chancellor.
In line with the provisions of the University's Miscellaneous Provision Amendment Act as amended, the report of the Selection Board was considered by the Council, which, after a careful and dispassionate review of the report, decided to appoint Professor Adebayo Simeon Bamire, a professor of agricultural economics from the Faculty of Agriculture of Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, as the Vice-Chancellor of the University with effect from June 7, 2022.
But this was immediately greeted with protest by some people, especially the indigenes of the town. They said an indigene of the town among the contestants must be picked as the successor to Professor Iyitoke Ogunbodede. The protest continued on Friday as they shut the entrance gate, preventing movement of vehicles in and out of the university. Carrying placards with various inscriptions, the protesters vowed not to allow academic activities take place.
I have been lenient with OU community for 61 years. We own this land. Our fathers gave this land. This soil is ours. If we cannot produce a substantive vice-chancellor for 61 years, we have failed.
So what we are clamoring for is that for the period of 5 years, just a single time, test Ife. We have somebody that can do it. Yesterday we are here just briefly, but today we are here. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday we'll be here. We want to show them that we actually mean business them around. We are not saying Ife. We are saying Ife, federal constituency, after 61 years. This is the 12th VC that they appoint. We are going to fight it to the last call. We are not saying they should not appoint Banire. Banire should go back to the team and become his VC.
The new Vice-Chancellor is the current Deputy Vice-Chancellor Academics of the institution and is expected to resume its new office on the 7th of June this year. Rafi Hamid, TVC News, Ile-Ife, Osun State.
And back to our earlier story, Governor of Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa, says he is committed to handing over a vibrant state to his successor and wants his team to stay focused in the 14 months left in his administration. Governor Okowa spoke at a two-day retreat for top government functionaries in Asaba. We have more in this report by Ikenna Michi.
It is a two-day retreat for commissioners, permanent secretaries, auditors, and other top government functionaries. The significance of the program is mirrored in the theme focusing the administration to finish strong.
everything that needs to be done to make sure that the contract with Deltans is kept is exactly what we have come here to sit down to discuss in 2 days.
Different resource persons took their turn to emphasize on the need for the team to remain on course as the Governor Okowa-led administration is gradually coming to an end.
So all I'm encouraging is that we must, on our own, decide and say, how do we mobilize and lead? I know that we are leading through mission, through vision, through values, and through character to achieve what we are supposed to achieve.
There is no business that is more important than politics. It is through this politics that political leadership emerges. I'm hoping, like you and many people in this room, that the outcome of the 2023 elections would provide Nigeria opportunity for renaissance, that would emerge the right quality of leadership.
Governor Ifeanyi Okowa is one of the participants here. He commends his team for all the achievement recorded in the past years, but wants more commitment at this final stage of the administration.
You must understand that as long as you're in government, you remain focused on achieving the goal to the end, and in trying to ensure the success of the administration that you work in. That must be your priority. Like the Ministry of Education, Higher Education, we've established 3 universities. What's the pathway of giving strength to those universities that they become truly sustainable even when we leave? Everyone that has headed the office that has worked in the area of job creation and generation of entrepreneurs, they have really done so well. And that's why I've also analyzed and looked at things, and I just find that, please, commissioners, I want to plead with you, stay focused.
The importance of this retreat is for the governor to refocus his team towards ensuring that the momentum, all projects and programs we started is maintained to the end of his administration. Ikenna Amechi, TVC News, Asaba.
You're watching TVC News. The Hydroelectric Power Producing Area Development Commission has flagged off a free medical intervention program across the 57 local governments under HYPODEC. The medical outreach will include screening hepatitis and treatment of surgical cases. Chineme Bamayi reports.
Poor access to special medical healthcare services remains a major problem to rural dwellers in Nigeria. Access to healthcare services include the quality of care, physical accessibility, availability of the right type of care for those in need, and financial affordability. While the government is working towards improving access to primary healthcare services, the Hydroelectric Power Producing Area Development Commission, HYPODEC, is organizing this medical outreach to bridge the gap in healthcare delivery by bringing doctors who are specialists in their field to the people who hitherto cannot access them in their locality. The medical team will diagnose and treat common cases including malaria and cases that might require surgery such as hernia, hydrocele, and ganglion. Flagging off the exercise, Managing Director of HYPODEC, Abubakar Yelwa, disclosed that the medical outreach is scheduled to be done quarterly.
We are doing this because we realize that the people do not have access to specialist medical attention. Most of the medical facilities near them are either primary health centers or rural health centers, and they don't have the opportunity of meeting consultants and professionals in the different disease areas that may be affecting them. So that's why we decided to mobilize specialists, consultants in different fields to come here at their doorstep.
The intervention is okay, and we are looking forward to more of these interventions for our people. So we are grateful to the HYPODEC.
Well, most of the common cases that we are attending to since we started this program are hypertensive cases. Then we will also be attending to people with low backache.
I am glad to be a beneficiary of this initiative. Whoever that hears of this outreach should come and be part of it. This outreach will be of great benefit to those who cannot afford healthcare services.
This intervention is targeting 10 to 12,000 people across 17 local government areas in Niger State and is expected to be extended to other HYPODEC states in the country. Chanami Bameyi, TVC News, Mina.
Now, are you aware that each year recyclables save more than 700 million tons in global carbon emissions? But by 2030, this figure is expected to have increased to 1 billion tons. With this in mind, environmental advocates are urging for better ways of recycling, which will save more lives and the environment. Kemi Balogun reports.
It is Global Recycling Day, a day set aside to encourage people to think again about what is thrown away. This year is shifting focus to celebrate the recycling fraternity, those who put themselves on the front line to collect waste and recycle them during the multiple lockdowns.
To support improvement.
This school in the heart of the capital city is doing its own part to ensure that waste is used for the good of the students and not left to be harmful to the environment through the construction of this toilet.
We need to keep the world clean and the environment clean so that we won't have like issues with the environment.
Encourage, and I'll also put waste bins in every corner of my house so that it can be easier if you want to recycle anything rather than throwing it on the floor, and also be hygienic.
When you get this waste and you're able to segregate them properly, you'll be able to know which one you can recycle and they will be of use. Even in the school here, that is what we do.
Global Recycling Day was created to help recognize and celebrate the importance recycling plays in preserving the primary resources of the planet. Environmental advocates like Dorothy believe that recycling is one way to save the planet and secure its future.
Most of the waste we generate in our offices, in our homes, in our schools are majorly recyclable waste. I'm talking of paper, I'm talking of plastic and metal. So what we do now, instead of evacuating this waste to the dump sites, we train cleaners for free to segregate this waste using the color-coded bin, and when they segregate it, we evacuate it to a recycling company free of charge.
The day strives to urge world leaders that recycling must be a global issue and encourage people to think resourcefully and not waste. Kemi Balogun, TVC News, Abuja.
The Nigerian Medical Association (FCT) is proposing an extension period for the disengagement of the public-private partnership arrangement between the Federal Capital Territory Administration and the current management of the Garki General Hospital, Abuja. They believe this will give room for a more effective, smoother and more humane transition for both the patients and more than 900 medical personnel that could be affected. We have more in this report.
Since the 1st of March this year, reactions have continued to trail the notice served to the management of the Garki General Hospital by the Federal Capital Territory Administration to vacate and hand over the facility. An agreement signed between the duo in 2007 has now elapsed after 15 years, but the ripple effect caused by the suddenness of this disengagement order has been termed as ill-timed. Today, the Medical Association, who are at the verge of losing hundreds of jobs, are lending their voice to this issue, calling for a reconsideration to the time frame given so that no one is left behind.
If there's a debt to be paid and is a reason for the termination notice, I'm sure they can sit down and come to some form of agreement. Because if you rent somebody's house, you're supposed to pay rent. And so, but my worry now is the tenants who have been working assiduously in the last 15 years in that facility, who have been holding forth when all the public hospitals have been on strike. And we all know that when all the public hospitals are on strike in FCT, Garki Hospital still works, still functions. And all of a sudden you're asking them to pack their bags and go home within a short period.
I don't think 1 month is reasonable notice for a facility of that nature. And that even if it is also part of the agreement, looking at the facilities, we feel that using self-help would not be advisable. Because what happens if at the end of 1 month they are unable to evacuate?
The group also wants the federal government and the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation to look into the present fuel crisis happening in the country in order to lessen the burden on doctors.
The situation has severely affected the practice of medicine. Health workers are now finding it increasingly difficult to get to their places of work to discharge their duties, not to mention the adverse effects on productivity.
Lawmakers on Thursday had resolved to ask the FCTA to stay action on the termination of the concession agreement, pending the intervention of the Committees on Privatization, Commercialization and Health Institutions on the matter. More than 100 doctors and thousands of patients could be affected if the FCTA goes through with the vacation order. Kemi Balogun, TVC News, Abuja.
We're talking sports now. Hosts of the University of Lagos, UNILAG, have started laying the athletics track as the Nigeria University Games NUGA begins. Solomon Ajuziogu spoke with the track experts at the UNILAG Sports Center.
The last time the University of Lagos hosted the NUGA Games was in 1998. Back then, the track was ready a whole 9 months before the Games. But the pitch was the last to be ready for the competition.
You know, at that time we didn't have a swimming pool, so as an addition we have a standard Swiss timing swimming pool. So there has been a lot of improvement from the 98 NUGA to date.
We're not always in a hurry to do things, though we would have loved to do it earlier, but you know, the way things are, we take things the way it comes.
The UNILAG NUGA Games appears to have faced the challenge of funding as the largest contingent ever of student athletes converge on Lagos.
Availability of funds would be like a reference point here. The previous time there was adequate fund budgeted for the event, but in this case there's no fund for this, you know, major. I mean, this special event.
24 years after, UNILAG is back hosting the games, and this time the pitch has long been ready, but the track is yet to be laid for the athletics event, even on the first day of the games. With athletes gearing up for action on day one, the athletics track experts arrive to begin work. They are sure that the quality of the track to be laid in UNILAG would have a durable lifespan of up to 15 years.
If all the material is here, we should be able to lay this within 5 days. Your finished coat may not be here on time, but your subcoat, your black coat, and everything will be done within 5 days. When we get the top coat on it and the red coat on it and it marked, you should have absolutely no problem in any way within 10 to 15 years.
The more than 10,000 athletes and officials from almost 100 universities can now begin the games while they await the laying of the track. Solomon Ajuziogu, TVC News, Lagos.
That's it on the news this hour. Thank you very much for watching.